Second. All right. We are live.
Fun stuff.
How you doing today?
It's doing good. Good. How about you?
So far, so good. Yeah, so far, so good. Should have wiped my eyes earlier, but yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
whatever.
I found something that I wanted to start on.
Okay.
It says casino staff in China catch a woman using high-tech lenses to cheat. Have you ever heard anything like that? Right. See your face.
Okay. I mean, I guess makes sense. With the whole smart glasses thing coming in. You've seen those Ray-Ban smart glasses partnered with Meta that have like you
The little
can
camera.
display, yeah, camera on the built into the thing and everything. So if you've got the ability to embed an entire camera or at least a remote connection with a small like system on a chip type of computer in the glasses and then like
Hmm.
send whatever number crunching out to that or to some other server computer somewhere and then get the info back and just displayed on your lenses in a way um, that is not visible to others around you, then yeah, I mean it makes perfect sense. I can see how smart glasses will, if they're not already banned, I can see how they will be banned from casinos very soon. In the same way that like smartphones are not allowed pulled out while you're sitting at the blackjack table. You know, they don't want you texting other people because you could be, you know, you could have a buddy who's a world-class card counter that you're just feeding all the information, giving everything back. So uh, they want everything, all of the odds to stay in their favor as much as possible. So yeah, I mean, um, I almost wonder why I haven't heard anything like that coming out of Vegas, why it's a uh, Chinese casino first. But
Is it falling over?
just the wax cools off up top and it gets just a gigantic chunk and it doesn't have enough mass to break the um the connection. I guess that's not the right word. The
Some of
adhesion
the
adhesive force between the wax and the glass versus the mass that's pulling it down. You've got two different directions that the wax is being pulled.
um, I want to go into lava lamps then while we're on it.
Okay.
They are quite interesting. Tell me about lava lamps.
Um, I mean, I don't know. What do you want to know? Like the
How hot do they get?
oh, not very hot. Like I mean, well, not very is relative, I guess. They're running, I don't know. It says 84.3 degrees down at the like right at the base of that lamp, but that's just like the air in the immediate surface. Um, yeah, they do get over 100 degrees. Um, it takes enough heat to melt wax. So I don't know what that melting point is. Actually, here, I guess it can do. para, why is it so hard to spell paraffin?
Yesterday.
Yes, generally paraffin wax has a melting point of 115 to 155 degrees Fahrenheit. So it depends on the exact composition of the wax and you know, pressure, ambient pressure that can change melting points of certain well of anything. Well, um, so yeah, the wax has to get heated up enough to melt. So well, like I said, that's a minimum of 115 degrees. It has to get hot enough at the base to heat up the wax to the point that its density expands or reduces enough that it becomes lighter than the water that it's in. The master fluid and the globes are mostly water, and the lava blobs are mostly just wax, essentially. Um, there's a little bit of extra chemistry that goes into it that, makes it not exactly, you wouldn't want to drink that water. That would be very bad. There's chemicals they call surfactants that are designed to change uh, the surface tension between the wax and the water. Um, so that would allow the wax to behave differently within the water. Um, and then you also wouldn't want to take the leftover wax if you dump out the water or something. If it gets cloudy or the water breaks, you wouldn't want to use that as a candle. It's not just paraffin wax. There's some other stuff in there that would not be good. And I don't know what the recipe is off the top of my head. Don't know it well enough to be able to speak to the actual composition of the wax, but I mean, it's just a general good rule of thumb, just not to burn stuff that you don't know the the whole composition of, especially in an enclosed space. Um, but yeah, the lava lamps were invented back in the 1960s over in England, Dorset, England is
Mm,
the location. The original lava lamps. Um, it was a company called Mathmos, Mathmos, that produced the first original lava lamps, and
mm,
then they sold a license to an American company that um, allowed the lamps to be produced in the United States. It gave exclusive um, exclusive rights to produce and sell those lamps in the United States. So Mathmos does not make and sell lamps for the United States for most of its history. They only, very occasionally do anything that actually gets shipped across the Atlantic Ocean. But Mathmos lamps have generally been seen as having a higher quality than a lot of the American lamps recently. Um, there was a point somewhere in the early 2000s where the American manufacturer of the lava lamp brand sold that license again to a Chinese company, and now it's um, a Chinese organization company that um, has the rights to the lava brand, and they've changed the recipe somewhat a little bit so that whatever was made back in the 90s in the United States, those recipes were, a lot of people really felt that those were the more interesting looking lava flows. The fluid's often a lot clearer in the older vintage lamps compared to the brand new lamps. As soon as the Chinese manufacturer took over, it's hard to get a good, nice, clear fluid lamp. Um, but they, they do have occasional luck with the shipping and whatnot. Um, but yeah, there's also a big like hobbyist aftermarket type of community that is building up, organizing. Um, it's like within the last decade, I've seen it more that people are customizing the lamps and replacing the fluid with something so that, it doesn't matter if you get a cloudy lamp, you're going to take the liquid and filter it anyway, or you're going to dump it out and replace it with a different. There's some aftermarket hobbyists that have um, made replacement wax, so you can just entirely replace the whole contents of it. Um, get fresh wax that you can then dye whatever color you want, and then the wax is made to work with a distilled water, so you can pour that in fresh, super clear water and dye it however you want. So yeah, do you have anything?
That was one of my questions. Is like you can get any color oil and any color wax,
If you
like
do
make
the
your own basically.
aftermarket stuff, you can. Yeah. Otherwise, you're limited to just what the manufacturer produces, which is, I mean, they come up with some really interesting color combinations, and there's some they do some special there's some partnerships with the Spencer's Gifts that they have, like, especially around Halloween time, they have a lot of holiday Halloween horror movie themed lava lamps. Um, but yeah, there's um, a lot of interesting color combinations. It's hard to get a camera though to accurately depict the actual visual appearance of the lamp itself. Like, behind me, this big guy here is purple liquid and yellow wax. This one is completely clear fluid and blue wax. Um, yeah, you see, but the light level is this low, it's just gonna stop flowing unless I put it back up. So,
Oh, okay. I
same
see
with
what you're doing.
this other guy here. Yeah, you
Oh,
see. So
yeah.
if I like this, you can kind of see it, but I mean, yeah, it's hardly visible at all, like looking at it directly visually. So, um, that's one thing. But I think that's probably in part because I'm also trying to keep myself visible in here. If I could take the camera and lighting and just focus solely on capturing the color of the lava lamps, I could probably get a better um, representation of them. But um, yeah, that's now it'll be interesting to
Um,
see if they stop flowing now that I've fiddled with the dimmer switches on that. So I might have to keep an eye and lean back and fiddle with the sliders. So yeah,
how much would one of these cost you? Like regular lava lamp, just if I wanted the average lava lamp, not decorated or anything.
I mean, um, $30 to $50 if you want the lava lamp brand name. Um, there's a bunch of non-lava branded liquid motion lamps, as they call them. that, I mean, it can get real inexpensive. There's a lot of other Chinese manufacturers that have, you know, it's the lava lamp name that was worth more to that company more so than the recipe of the contents. So there's a bunch of, I mean, if you go on Amazon and just type in lava lamp, there's a whole bunch of stuff. But if you type in Lava Light, Lite, that's the brand name, and that you'll see is consistently like 50 to 100% more expensive. So I mean 100%. So double the price of, but they have better I don't know, better I don't know how to say it, but I kind of the shape of the normal traditional name brand lava lamps I kind of prefer, you know. Um, I think that's
Um,
another thing that they have legally protected in some way.
uh, Yesterday there was something that I wanted to talk to you today about, and it
Mm,
was I forgot who said it, but they were like when they were putting cocaine in Coca-Cola back in the days. I don't think I
yes.
asked you. I was gonna ask you, like, were they doing that to make the Coca-Cola like a party drug or something? What's the reason for putting Coca-Cola in? I mean, putting cocaine in Coca-Cola was my thing. I didn't get to ask you that.
Yeah, so like back in like the 19th century, late 19th century, like science was just starting to emerge out of the concept of alchemy. It was just, the very earliest glimmer of the actual medical profession was just starting to form there. So part of that was these patent medicines. Some people knew what was actually working, what was actually useful. Some people took advantage of this, new emerging knowledge and made, snake oil salesman type people who just, wanted to capitalize off of this stuff. But Coca-Cola was essentially started out as a patent medicine, I think. They were looking for something that um, made you feel better, made you feel energized. I mean, it was basically a wine infused with coca leaves at the very, very earliest point of the history of what became Coca-Cola that we have now. So, um, right around the end of the Civil War, it was wine with coca leaves, and if you get you know a little bit of an alcohol buzz and a little bit of a stimulant cocaine buzz at the same time, you drink that and you'll feel happier, you'll feel energized, you'll feel kind of loosened inhibitions and stuff. So I mean, it worked, it did what it was supposed to do. It didn't heal anything, but I don't think that it necessarily had ever purported to cure anything. It was just to make you feel better. So yeah, when they I think it was the temperance movement that made the recipe change first. The prohibition of alcohol meant that they had to take the wine part out of the Coca-Cola recipe, so it couldn't be coca leaf infused wine anymore. So that's when the cola nut was introduced, which has a small amount of caffeine in it. Well, I don't know if I should necessarily say small amount, but the cola nut was what introduced the first bit of caffeine into the the process or the process, the, recipe. Um, But then later on, when the um, 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 when the cocaine was banned, when the coca leaf couldn't be or used in its natural form anymore, um, the cocaine is still used medically for anesthesia in nasal surgeries and eye surgeries. It's not just an anesthetic too. It causes vasoconstriction, so the blood vessels constrict, so it reduces bleeding in these procedures as well. So a lot of people don't realize it. You're not getting a buzz off of it necessarily. They're not, giving you lines, but they are a lot of times actually administering cocaine in some of these medical procedures that are still happening now. So in order to have that cocaine, they need to get it somewhere. And the process of synthesizing cocaine completely from scratch is a very complicated process and not something that scales up industrially very well. So plants have a natural process, a natural synthesis route to get right to the cocaine that they need. So it's more uh, financially viable to go and harvest the plant and extract it from the leaf than it is to start from scratch and synthesize it from zero. So they still use the coca leaf to get the medical cocaine, but after that cocaine is taken out, um, the coca leaf is either discarded or is used for something else. And Coca-Cola Company has um, a deal, an agreement, or is one of those disposal routes, I guess you could call it disposal. They get rid of the coca leaves for those medical cocaine producers by using it as a flavoring ingredient in Coca-Cola. So that coca in Coca-Cola is actually the coca plant, the coca leaf
Oh,
of cocaine fame. The cola comes from the cola nut. Um, the nut is actually spelled with a K, Kola, but the C, it looks a lot nicer, a lot of little curvy flourishing and stuff when they make it. So they just changed the C in cola to, or the K in cola to a C. And
mm.
that's how you got to Coca-Cola from cocaine and um, buzzes back then, it must have been a crazy, you could just
I mean,
go and get this stuff over the counter from anywhere. Um, Another little fun fact, side note, morphine was used um, on the battlefield in the Civil War, and like just after the Civil War, it was the first time that painkillers were actually used medically. Before that, if you had an injury and the doctor needed to amputate, just you were
wow.
out of luck. You had to get tied down, held down while the doctor takes a saw and saws it off, and you had to, until you passed out from the pain, maybe. But um,
I was gonna say that you either
so the
lose consciousness because of pain deprivation. Uh,
right. So the pain or the morphine was comes from opium. The opium poppy. It's the same painkiller uh, addictive process that caused or that led to the opium wars over in China with Britain after they started shipping and causing addiction among the Chinese population. Basically, Britain um, forced opium into the Chinese markets and got them all addicted and everything, and then had a whole revenue stream there. But when you started to get more scientific about it, it was just this tar, the black tarry substance. It seemed to appear. Um, the flower, the opium poppy, would grow and its petals would fall off, and you have these little pods, and they'd poke holes or scratch the edges of these pods, and the sap um, leaks out of the sides of it, and that sap that comes out of the flower is opium. That's what they call, or that's where they get opium from. So it's a whole mix of all these different substances that come out of the poppy. There's a whole bunch of different active painkillers that are all mixed together in this opium. So I mean, among them, there's morphine, there's codeine. So those two right there are big, um, very important to modern medicine. But I didn't know that so when they started actually getting down to the point of finding specific molecules and finding that this part of the sap, this morphine molecule from the sap is the active part of it, that the morphine is the stronger one than the codeine, and then there's um, others I'm blanking on right now, but morphine was the big one there. Um, and if I recall correctly, I think it was the Bayer, Bayer, the German pharmaceutical company that isolated morphine initially. Um, but eventually, you need to get um, or after the Civil War, you get all of these soldiers that were using morphine, opium, components for pain, and they were addicted to it essentially. So post-Civil War era, um, opium addiction, painkiller addiction, became known as the soldier's disease, essentially, because it was all these soldiers who had limbs cut off and were, um, um, basically just the addicts, the painkiller addicts, that that kind of same addiction we see today in our population. Um, so
Mm.
it's a long running problem, but after a time, you get addicted to one of these substances. You need more and more, bigger and bigger doses in order to get the effective, um, the effects, I guess. So um, they would, they would um, need something bigger than morphine, or they would need a lot more morphine. Um, so the bear was the one that um, invented heroin. They
Oh,
were the pharmaceutical company Bayer. Um, initially, the very first patent on the morphine molecule, or not on the morphine, on the heroin molecule, and that synthesis process. It's effectively like two morphine molecules like stuck together, um, like structurally. The active um, or the activity of it in the brain is more complicated than just double morphine. But that's what I mean, the synthesis process for heroin started from extracting morphine, and that all goes all the way back to the official, big pharmaceutical companies. So yeah, it's
They just
interesting.
want something stronger.
They needed something stronger in order to keep supplying the market, you know. Um,
Mm.
there was no controlled substance laws at the time, though. These were not considered big um, crimes to be pushing these things, to be selling these things, to be buying these things. They were recognized as a problem, but they weren't criminal. Um, because I mean, why would they be? There's only the very emerging concept of molecules. Um, how would they, why would they immediately, like, reflexively ban that stuff? It's the state of the art of medicine. They don't, you know. So it was all sold like over the counter from pharmacists, from, your local druggist, chemist around the corner. You could go and buy Bear brand heroin, just like you could get aspirin tablets, Bear's aspirin, right next to each other on the shelf from your friendly neighborhood. And it wasn't a shady profession either. He wasn't the sketchy dude that, your mom warned you about when you were, a little kid. He was the respected professional, So it's nuts. I don't, it's crazy. Um,
Right.
the world we live in has been building up for like a century. The modern problem that we're seeing of opioid addiction is not a new thing. And, it seems new with all of these, they talk about fentanyl and all this stuff, but it's been going on ever since the opium poppy was first, or ever since addiction was first used as a means of leverage against another population, either for profit or for political control. Yeah.
It mainly become a problem once people start like using it like a drug or like smoking it or whatever the case they were doing with it.
Yeah, the smoking it once it was started to be recreational, I guess, not just the scientific medical, um, you know, um, but the well, yeah, I guess it was. I mean, the opium poppy has been known to be helpful for um, millennia, not just, not just back with the British and the Opium Wars, but it's been, I mean, all the way back to ancient times. There's writings about the opium poppy. I think even Galen had written it. So back to ancient Greeks, it was known and it was used, cultivated specifically for that purpose. But the biggest problem, the shift, at least as far as I know, I'm not an expert on this. This is just what I've absorbed over, but the biggest shift in that concept came with the British and the Opium Wars pushing it in on China. And that's when you started having the biggest, or the big, problem of the opium dens and the Chinese population um, being um, basically like become turned into ineffective. Um, um, I don't know how to say it. They were, instead of being able to be called upon by the Chinese emperor as effective soldiers, there was a large part of the population that couldn't even function without the opium that they smoked daily. So um, that was when it became a political tool with the British pushing it on China.
I heard you say the word opium den. What is that? So like somewhere you
That
go.
was opium dens were I mean, it was basically like um, just a location where opium was available um, to purchase and use, and there were opium pipes. And I mean, once you take a big recreational sized hit of a um, opioid painkiller, and that really takes effect, you're gonna like nod
Mm,
off. You need to be somewhere that you're not gonna like fall over in the middle of the street or something. That it wasn't something that was, I mean, even though it wasn't legal or it wasn't necessarily illegal, it was frowned upon. So they had to kind of do it off, um, out of the public view, mainstream view. So it's kind of like the speakeasies of like Prohibition
mm,
time. Um, you had to go and know where to find it. But once it was there, you kind of, it wasn't necessarily well. So maybe less like a speakeasy and more like a bar, in a way that you could go in, um, but consume it, get your fix, so to speak, and then. But I don't know. I mean, the process at the time was I mean, the opium pipes that they used were long pipes with the little fixture at the end, and you'd take a little dab of, you know, I mean, something smaller than this little, you know, stick it
mm,
into the end of the pipe, and they'd have a little candle or oil lamp. So they'd lay on their side with this long pipe and hold the little point, the little dot with the ball out at the end up right near the little candle lamp. And that draw in and that heat would melt the opium and you get it straight into your lungs, kind of like, cannabis now. And a big hit versus eating it. There's a big difference in terms of the onset. So, yeah, that's more than you
Um,
needed to know, probably.
the word speakeasy. I've heard it quite a few times. Um,
Mm.
please explain that. Speakeasy, like,
Speakeasies. They were basically like secret. I mean, when when the word speakeasy is used to a um, modern uh, business, it's kind of like a password protected bar in a sense. But originally, speakeasies came in Prohibition. When alcohol became illegal, people still wanted to drink, so they needed to know somebody somewhere. You gotta keep quiet about it. If you know where to go, you go up, and um, it was kind of like one of the original, like, if you know kind of things. If you knew where to find it, if you were uh, in with the crowd that knew what was happening, then you knew where to go to get it. And once you were in uh, the bar, you could talk freely about alcohol and drinking, and I mean, you'd be served whatever was available and stuff, and so you could speak easily, right? But you couldn't talk about drinking or about alcohol outside of certain contexts, certain locations, because it was, there was a constitutional amendment. You literally had no right in the United States to consume ethanol, the one molecule, alcohol. Um, no.
Hmm.
So
Uh,
yeah, it's strange. The history is always shown that prohibition doesn't work, and yet nobody seems to have gotten the hint. Nobody in power seems to have gotten the hint. You know, you can't
hmm.
legislate people out of substance abuse disorder. They need help, not jail time. But
um,
tangent.
I had
So,
something else. Uh, it was a recording that I wanted you to listen to. I found it on the internet, and I was like, I wonder what Mark thinks about this, and
mm,
I'll play it. Let me know if you can or cannot hear it. I don't know what they're doing, but I'll tell you something. With 50 million or more people smoking pot regularly in this country, now grandma and grandma getting into the act, almost 10%, it's going to send absolutely the wrong message. And I'll tell you why this is happening. Because they think it has medicinal use. They think it's going to help you sleep at night. They think it's going to decrease your anxiety and decrease your pain. None of that has been shown medically. It increases your anxiety. It doesn't help you sleep at night, and it doesn't treat pain. 39 states where it's medicinally used is a disgrace, and that's what led to the 24 states where it's recreationally used. People flooding emergency rooms, people getting into car accidents. They say, well, it's safer than alcohol, but they're taking it with alcohol, and it's doubling the amount of car accidents with both substances on board over the last 2 decades. I'm really worried about this. I don't know. What do you think about that? Because they said it's not helping. It's not doesn't help sleep or anxiety. I've heard
uh,
different. Last night it helped me sleep. I'm just saying.
I've experienced different. I don't know. My response to that, I would just say that statements made without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. I don't believe his numbers. I mean, and he just says, this isn't, they say da 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 and it isn't true. They say da 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 and it isn't true. He doesn't have any actual numbers. He doesn't cite any actual anything except the number of states. I mean, so what? The number of states isn't proof of anything. He says that there are medical studies. He doesn't name anybody. He doesn't name any institution. Um, so I'll just say that he's wrong. And I don't need to do anything more than just say that in order to be on absolutely equal level footing with him in terms of authoritativeness. So I don't know who that dude is, but he needs to like take a gummy and just sit back and see if he really feels the same after, you know, an hour, 2 hours.
uh, yeah, I really wanted to hear your input on that. I seen it yesterday.
What's that dude's
I'll send you a
name?
link
I
of
just
it.
want to, yeah, I want to just see who that is because
Um, I got someone else, and it was another article that I thought was kind of interesting. I didn't know you can lose your nationality. And an ad here says committing serious crimes can now lead to loss of Belgian nationality. Um, they
okay.
can just say you're not a Belgian anymore. You broke the law. What do you think about that?
Is that, well, I mean, if if it's something where it's stripping dual citizenship from somebody who's, or I don't know. I don't know. That's weird. That's really weird. Like what would that mean to a natural born Belgian citizen who doesn't have any other nation state? citizenship, like a stateless person who doesn't have I mean, they wouldn't have a passport, they wouldn't be able to travel to any other countries, but they wouldn't be a citizen, national citizenship of, or a national citizen of Belgium anymore. Like, where would that leave them? What would happen? I don't know. I feel like there's more to that title that needs to be expanded before before I could really form an opinion, you know,
I send it to you.
on
Um, I
Reddit
send it to
or
you on Reddit. Um, yeah, that was on Reddit.
what's the
Um,
Belgian
the article
nationality?
says the federal government has approved a bill that will allow the state to revoke Belgian citizenship from people found guilty of serious crimes such as homicide and sexual assault. Okay, yeah, so it is deep, deep crimes, not just stealing
Okay.
something.
Anyone who has acquired Belgian nationality in the last 15 years and is found guilty. So yeah, it would have to be dual citizens. So if you immigrate to, I mean, I don't know. I think that that's not entirely unreasonable, right? So let's say and play it out in the United States, right? Um, Somebody who's not a United States citizen, right? They immigrate, come from another country into the United States, and they get U.S. citizenship also, and then they commit, you know, multiple homicide, right? So we collectively as a nation have allowed some other person from another country to come in and um, kill people born within the borders of our country. Um, what do we do with that person? Like,
I'll
do
read
we
the
lock
beginning
them
of this
up?
article.
If we lock
Uh,
them up, then there's going to be a burden on the rest of our country to um, to I mean, it's something like $70,000 a year per inmate to keep somebody locked up. And I mean, are we going to make U.S. taxpayers pay $70,000 a year for somebody to come into our country and murder our citizens?
mm,
Or do we revoke that new citizenship and say you go back to your original country?
makes sense.
I yeah,
Uh,
I don't see a problem with it personally, like on a philosophical level. I mean, it seems kind of common sense, I think.
yeah, I didn't really
But
read into it.
I've only read that first sentence, so I don't know. I gotta,
I'll
there
read the
might be
rest.
more. Okay.
It says anyone who has acquired Belgian nationality in the last 15 years is found of a guilty serious crime, including homicide, sexual assault, and organized crime, can be stripped of their nationality. The wide expansion of existing law that largely applied only to terrorism has been approved by the Federal Chamber of Representatives following a proposal by Federal Justice Minister Annelies Verlinden. Previously, this legislation was only applied to terrorism, but it now has been expanded to include other serious crimes. The criminal must have received a prison sentence of at least 5 years to be considered for this measure. Revoking citizenship cannot be automatically applied to every criminal. It will be considered on case by case basis. Anyone guilty of grave crimes that undermine the foundations of our society can lose his or her Belgian citizenship, says the federal minister, Annelies Verlinden. The same cannot be said for terrorists who have double nationality under the new legislation. Their Belgian citizenship will now be automatically revoked, whereas earlier that was also handled on a case-by-case basis. The new legislation is a, in quote, powerful message, says Verlinden, that, in quote, anyone guilty of grave crimes that undermine the foundations of our society can lose his or her Belgian citizenship. Yeah, that's a lot. um, Looks like you're reading it.
Yeah. Reading along. Just,
What are you taking from it?
I mean, it seems perfectly reasonable in my mind. You know, if it's even more reasonable now that it's, I can see it's not automatic, that's, and there's a 5-year sentence. So, it's not just somebody who gets into you know, a traffic incident violation or something, um, I don't know. I think 5 years or more prison sentence is usually, I mean, especially in European countries, their sentencing is often, at least as far as I've seen, it seems a lot more lenient. A 5-year prison sentence is usually something that would get like at least 10 years in the United States. At least if a lot of um, internet
Mm,
commenting people are um, to be believed. I don't know, but it seems like um, or the consideration on a case by case basis um, seems like they're going to be taking, considering whether likelihood of repeat offense, so if after the 5 years you seem like you're going to be uh, perfectly well behaved afterwards, there's no likelihood that you're going to do it again, then not revoking the citizenship seems like a good thing.
mm,
Somebody coming in and convicted of organized crime, someone who's found and proven to be a gang member or mafia person or whatever organization connections, and yeah, that's something. Even once they serve their sentence, that's just, they're just ticking off the box. Um, they're not gonna learn a lesson from 5 years. Um, if it's something that they're like their entire lives are dedicated to, and it's shown that they're in with organizations that would kind of, you know, like kill them if they try to get out or something, Um, I don't know. It's interesting.
yeah. I got something else though. Um, uh, for some reason, when I pressed interesting news, this popped up because I was interested in finding something interesting on the news to talk about today. But it says personal information on 4,500 ICE and border agents leaked online. Um, yeah, I was interested in what was going on with this because it popped up when I put interesting one, so I'm going to read into it. It says details of thousands of alleged ICE agents and Border Patrol employees have been reportedly leaked to an online watchdog group following a fatal shooting of Renee Good in Minneapolis. The identities of around 4,500 agents were shared with ICE List website by a Department of Homeland Security whistleblower, according to the Daily Beast. The data includes this information on around 2,000 agents and 150 supervisors, according to the Dominic Skinner, who launched the ICE List. Early analysis from the volunteer-led organization suggests that around 80% of these are identified and still employed by the DHS. Um, yeah, it says that it is a sign that people aren't happy with the U.S. government, clearly. The shooting was the last straw for many people, Skinner told the outlet. Protests have erupted across the country following killings of 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good, who was shot 3 times through the windshield of her car by ICE agent Jonathan Ross. Wow, I didn't know that. But basically, it's like someone's releasing all the cops' names. Um, all their information, it says. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I don't have, I'm not informed enough to have a fully developed opinion on the matter yet. Um,
Gotcha.
I haven't been paying close attention to all of what's happening. I'm vaguely aware. Um, it's, I don't know, it's very heavily politicized. It's difficult to say anything without pissing somebody off. And
Understood.
everybody seems to have been further and further divided into one side or the other side. And I don't think that either one side is necessarily 100% correct. But even saying that, trying to be in the middle of the two sides can be seen as an enemy of both sides, you know? So you can't be moderate, you can't be right wing, you can't be left wing without pissing somebody off in any of those options. And I don't know.
Gotcha.
I
I guess maybe more interesting. At least I thought it was more interesting. It says Costco's beloved rotisserie chicken gets roasted in lawsuit over preservatives.
what?
Um,
Oh my gosh, my
I,
parents love Costco rotisserie chickens. I get
me
them
too.
every Costco order. What can, oh my gosh.
Let me read into it. It says they're inexpensive, they're plentiful, they're sold in greasy plastic bags, and they're, by all reports, delicious. In a time of skyrocketing food prices and turbulent economies, Costco's rotisserie chickens are, for many, a reliable meal mainstay. But a new lawsuit filed in California court has a bone to pick with how the retailer advertises its beloved cooked birds. That proposed class action lawsuit filed January 22nd in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of California and viewed by CBC News alleges that the retail giant, end quote, has systematically cheated customers out of tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars by falsely advertising its Kirkland signature Seizn rotisserie chicken as containing no preservatives. The lawsuit, which has not yet been certified as a class action, notes Costco uses sodium phosphate in carrageenan, um, carrageenan might be,
Yeah.
which
You spell
extended
it?
shelf life. Huh?
You spell it?
Carrageenan.
Oh wow, that's a weird word. Yeah, I would. Carrageenan.
Okay.
Weird. I gotta look that
I'll
up
pass
now.
that.
I'll look that
It
up
says,
while you're reading.
okay, it says Costco uses sodium phosphate in carrageenan, which extended shelf life and maintained texture. Costco has confirmed that it does indeed use these common ingredients. Wow. And while these two ingredients are common in prepared foods, and federal regulators, including Health Canada, have listed them as safe, and the lawsuit says it's misleading to claim the chickens don't use preservatives. The two California women who initiated the lawsuit say in the complaint they wouldn't have purchased the chicken or would have paid less for it had they known it had preservatives. The lawsuit contains photo examples of the in store and online advertising for the chickens that claim to have no preservatives, and previous images of Costco's rotisserie chickens viewed by CBC News on various photo services do appear to be the same. Consumers reasonably rely on clear, prominent claims like no preservatives, especially when deciding what they're gonna feed to their families. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, okay. It looks like carrageenan is basically a natural thickening gelling agent derived from red seaweed. It looks like uh it's a vegetarian and vegan alternative to gelatin and is used to replace gelatin in confectionery and other food. Um, I mean, I don't know. Well, it's vegan, and yet they still have a problem with it. It comes from red seaweed. It's not really a preservative. Not especially not in the same sense that like all of the chemical preservatives that are most concerning to all of the people, that like I don't know. I don't get it. I guess maybe I don't know. Some people like you're stretching the definition of preservative to the point where at some point they're gonna have to say no salt even. Like salt is used to preserve meats sometimes, so
Wow.
you won't be able to season anything without having to say that it's got some preservatives. Uh, I don't know. I think that's just someone looking to file a lawsuit. What was it? What was it? Did they say a civil suit against Costco over it?
I sent a link to you, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So
basically,
if it's a civil suit, then they're looking to get money from Costco because Costco used this substance. I don't know. I want to say substance. That sounds sinister. This um, natural edible thickening agent. A thickening agent. I mean, I don't know. A lot of things that are just normal and necessary for food can sound sinister when you use the correct language for them. You have to ignore all ingredients that go into making basically everything in order to not sound like these are big, bad, scary ingredients. I
yeah, that was interesting to me because I have plenty of family members who love those chickens, and I don't want to ruin it for people, but I was trying to point that out, which still might ruin it for people. Um,
this carrageenan has been, I mean, it's been used as a food additive since approximately the 15th century, Wikipedia says, in the form of the natural seaweed source of it. So it's natural. It comes from, I don't know. If vegan isn't good enough, then what can people eat? Like, I don't know. It's, I guess that's getting some of these diets really, I don't
there's
know.
something here that there's something here I got that says Health Canada's mandatory front of package labeling. went into effect January 1st. That means foods with high and saturated fats, sugars, and or sodium now come with a warning, with skyrocketing rates of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease in Canada. The subtle warning is getting mixed reviews. What if they do that with our food? You have to label things like that.
I mean, I don't care what labels they put on it. I'm still going to eat what I want.
Right. Don't care what the label says, but this is very interesting.
Right. Yeah. I like me my Chef Boyardee spaghetti and meatballs too much to give it up. No matter what labels they put on it, it's still, I don't care if the meatballs are chicken, pork, and beef mechanically separated, they still taste the same as they always have. Good enough for me. I don't know. Maybe that's part of why I have health problems, some people might argue. You know, I have epilepsy now in my 40s, and I'm paying the price for eating unhealthy since childhood. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe they're right. Fine. Good for them.
I got a quick question. It
Hmm.
could have been an icebreaker, but we don't you necessarily lose ice. I mean, use icebreakers. But I got it here
Yeah,
anyway.
I've weaseled out of answering a lot of the icebreakers on a lot of the Zoom meetings. I don't know if you've noticed, like going back and editing, there's a lot of them where like several people have joined and you get answers from everybody except me. And I kind of sit back and I'm just like, heck yeah.
I got to pay attention now.
I wouldn't have
Tuesdays and
known
Fridays.
how to answer that if you had come to me. So I'm glad I didn't have to answer. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Um,
now I got to pay attention.
yeah,
Just
now I've
wait it out.
blown up my secret on myself. So, uh,
I got to pay attention
I've
now.
raised the difficulty level of this weaseling now. I'm gonna have to be extra sneaky to try to I don't know. I talk enough anyway. You don't need
Eh.
me to
Well, now I'm going to ask for your input still.
oh
Now I'm going to pay attention if you actually give the input. Um, I got something here though. It's just a Reddit post. It says, "Apart from money, what else do you need right now?" To be honest, and I was thinking uh, right now I could use something to eat. It is
mm.
10 a.m. So um,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
1 p.m. here and I didn't have breakfast, but it's okay. I had 2 cups of coffee, so I'm
two
good for a
cups of
little while
coffee.
longer.
Uh,
Um, Something you need, I don't know. Um, I mean, I don't know. I've never had a relationship, never started a family of my own, and I think that's a big part of the human experience that I am up to this point that I am missing out on, I guess I could say. I don't know. It's that's a good question. I don't know. What would you say?
um, I forgot the question. I'm sorry. I think I asked the question too.
Besides money, what is one thing you um that you need that you're,
A
you know,
girlfriend for one. No, I'm kidding.
yeah,
One
right.
thing that I need. Um, Surprisingly, this morning breakfast is the one because usually I'm not hungry, but this morning my stomach is making some sounds that it hasn't made in a while, and I think I'm just hungry. Yeah.
Nice.
Now we're getting up early now and doing Mark in the morning, so we're
Mhm.
here without food. Well, you're noon, so you could have been had food, but I got up at
Yeah,
8, so
I It still feels early for me though, so it's, you know,
Mm.
hold on, I gotta put the door behind me here. Gotta leave a cat crack because the food's in this room, but I don't necessarily want to have all of the action in the hallway coming in. So, uh, sorry about that. Um, I thought I had something that I was gonna bring up, but now I can't remember it. I think I accidentally closed that browser window on myself last night. So, ah,
I was gonna say that I believe I heard you say something about when we were talking about epilepsy medication, you explained how they choose epilepsy medication names. You remember that?
yeah. Um,
Um,
yeah, I mean it's not just epilepsy medication names. The FDA doesn't allow drug companies to name their own medications necessarily, not directly. Um, they have to make or invent um, a few names that they might want to use for their new medicine, and it has to be, it can't be anything that is related to the um, uh, the action or active uh, component of the medication itself. It can't suggest to the user or to the patient uh, that it is effective just by virtue of its name itself, so they can't name their anti-epilepsy drug, uh, I don't know, seize away or whatever. I don't know, seizure free, something. I don't know. But so it's they come up with three different names, I think, is what I and the FDA chooses among those possible names that the drug company comes up with, which one is going to be um, the name of the new patented medication. Um, so, in order to kind of get, um, you know, get whatever advantage possible, um, the drug companies had looked into what kind of names stick out in people's minds if they're not allowed to suggest with the name what the medication will do for them or what it's supposed to do for them, then they want to make a medication name that at least sticks out in someone's mind, something that will be memorable for them, so that when they hear commercials for it or whatever, and then hear it suggested as an option from their doctor, it'll jump out to them as something that, oh yeah. Uh, so the drug companies have found that when they use or when they get come up with a name, something that is approximately 8 characters long is the easiest, the best, uh, most memorable kind of word size for people. Longer than that, and it starts to get more difficult to remember. Shorter than that, and it doesn't really seem like it's saying much of anything. So, yeah, 8 characters long, and they've found that the least commonly used letters in the alphabet also stand out in the names. So, um, that's why there's a lot of patented medications with Z's or Y's or X's, um, so yeah, that's how you get, or that's how we've gotten a lot of um, the least commonly used, not letters, consonants, I guess. Well, I guess that's the same thing because vowels are all over the place in every word. But um, yeah, it's how the trade names for all of these drugs have come to be.
I was wondering who thought of the name Kepra. Um, yeah,
Someone at the yeah, what I don't know who or which company, which pharmaceutical company was the original. Um, yeah, but the two P's together side by side, you don't see that very much in um, many English words. So yeah, the K with a double P kind of that's there's not many words like that, right? That jumps
right.
out. EPRA, that jumps out in your name or in your mind, right?
Well, levetiracetam, or however anyone else would like to pronounce it, because I know you guys, there's a million ways people pronounce it, like Excopri and Excopri, Omvi and
Yeah.
Omfi. So many
Yeah,
pronunciations to
Excopri,
all these medications.
X's and X's and P's and everything, that's a perfect example. And there's no actual right way to pronounce it because it's not an actual English word. So
Didn't
everybody
think of it
can
like
come up
that.
with their own pronunciation. Why not?
So if I were to type it into Google, Excopri, you think it'd say Excopri? Because a lot of people say Excopri. Um,
And sure, they can say it that way. That's fine. They're just as right as you are when you say Excopri.
Good to know. Um, I do have something though. It says,
What about Excopri?
uh, that's an interesting one. Excopri. Have not heard that yet. Um,
I guess
wow.
it would be double I at the end would be more likely to be seen and pronounced as a long vowel there. The rules of English pronunciation would suggest that the I, single I at the end, from the Latin, we get a lot of words like that. So the double I. So yeah, rambling. We're
I got something. I don't know much about weasels, but I mean measles, but
oh
I've seen something about it. Never
weasels.
had it.
See?
Yeah, it says measles, not weasels. Excuse me.
But
Um,
yeah, I'd talk about weasels with you if you want. Not that I
well,
know
let me
much
know something
about it.
about weasels then. You dig into weasels, and we can talk about measles next.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know much about weasels, but it sounds like a fun subject.
right. Um, yeah, I don't know much about weasels either. We talk about that another time.
Oh, I finished watching Landman, and that roommate with the ferret, he mentioned that's they're part of the weasel family. So there we go, connection to weasels. You remember the
Perfect.
daughter's roommate?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I
That that
finished the
that came to
last
mind.
episode of season 2 right before joining the Zoom meeting yesterday. So,
I watched it last night, so yeah, I'm fresh to it too. I remember that now that you said that. Yeah. Um, weasels. Uh, what about weasels next time? I got something about measles though. It says 4 times as many measles cases in a few weeks than U.S. typically averages in a whole year. CDC says there have been 733 cases so far this year. A CDC report said. Um, there has been, oh, it says the same thing. There have been at least 733 confirmed measles cases reported across the nation. The latest data from the Center of Disease Control and Prevention showed Friday. This has actually been posted yesterday. So it says in just a few weeks, the United States reported 4 times as many cases than typically seen throughout the entire calendar year. And the CDC said before last year, which had recorded a break-in 202,276 cases in the U.S., averaged 180 cases annually since measles was declared eliminated in 2000. Hmm. The record number comes as South Carolina is dealing with the largest outbreak recorded in recent memory. Hmm. You ever had measles?
No, I was vaccinated. Vaccines
I
don't
don't even
cause
know what it
autism,
is.
though. Just it's just a coincidence in my case, whatever. But yeah, I mean that's what you get when you have people who make stupid decisions on behalf of their children. Um, yeah, just it's a simple, easily preventable uh, disease if you get your vaccines like you should have. If anybody who's coming down with measles now is, um, I don't know, it's a downstream effect of that whole anti-vaxxer um, movement that started back in the I think it was back in the early 90s that there was that initial hypothesized link between getting your vaccines and the first identifiable traits of autism. But the I mean the thing is, but the age range that you were supposed to get um, your vaccines in order to, get, go to school, yeah, to be vaccinated. Um, that's right around the same age range that the first symptoms, first signs, I don't know, symptoms, signs, traits, I don't know what you want to call them, of autism start showing up. That's when it's first identifiable, the right when the first social steps start to. So I don't know. It makes sense how there could be a correlation between the age that you're supposed to get your vaccines back in the 90s and the age that you first start seeing this child is not typical. Um,
Hmm.
and that's, just a coincidence. That's not causal. But because of that correlation, people decided, I don't want my child to deal with life as an autistic person, so I'm not going to get them their vaccines. That's not, I mean, if their child was autistic, they're already autistic. The vaccines aren't going to change that, but they will down the road lead to the reemergence of what was supposed to be an eliminated disease. I don't know. It it bothers me in several ways. It's yeah, I don't know. It's
What is the measles? Is it like the chicken pox, like a little bump or something?
no, it's well, here, let me uh, um it's rubella. Yeah, high fever, runny nose, red eyes, a particular rash starting on the face and goes downward. So it's more like scarlet fever um than chicken pox. Um, you know, um,
When I think of the
mm,
measles, I think of some kind of little bump. Measles sounds like chicken pox. I mean, for instance, like chicken pox is a bump. Um,
Well, it is. I mean, it is kind of spotty rush. I mean, yeah. I guess now that I look at it, it's. But yeah, it starts with like a red face, and then as it spreads downward, it gets more spotty. But chicken pox are larger, more defined. Um, I mean, if you do a quick search, just measles, and then click over to images, you can see some pretty um, unpleasant images. Oh,
I don't have my laptop today, so
oh, right, yeah. Wow. Okay. I'm sorry. I should,
I
but
have you. I can't look up the information.
yeah.
You're good
Well,
for
and
that.
I can't just telepathically send the image over to you. I don't know. Do you really want to see pictures of like 4 or 5 year old children with rashes all over them? It's like,
I'm curious now that you say it, but
okay. Um, yeah, hold on.
I can read some more of this right here. Read some of this more of this article says other states have reported cases that are dealing with ongoing outbreaks, including Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Kentucky, Minnesota, Nebraska, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Dakota, Utah, Virginia, Washington, and Wisconsin. Most of the outbreaks occurring across the country are pockets of under-vaccinated or unvaccinated communities because it's such an infectious disease. Whenever you see measles outbreaks, it is in effect highlights areas of the country or communities in which vaccination rates are low. Dr. Dimitri Daskalas, the former head of CDC branches that tracks disease, including measles, told ABC News. Wow. The rate of kindergartners vaccinated with the measles, mumps, or rubella MMR vaccine has fallen from 95% in 2019 to below 93% in 2025, CDC data shows. Herd immunity, a threshold for vaccinations, rates that slow a virus ability to spread is typically achieved at 95% vaccination rates, public health experts say. Hmm. So is it common to get when you're younger?
Um, yes, largely because their children are vaccinated in the United States at a young age. Um, and I think it's one of those things like chicken pox that once you have it one time, your body develops the immunity to it so that you do not um, do not ever get it again. But I mean, you either have to get the vaccine or go through the illness, and the illness is pretty tough on the body. It used to be something that was, one of the big um, well, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that contributed to infant mortality back just, you know, 100 years ago, before all of these vaccines were developed. Um, so, I mean, if you're a child and you catch it and you die, then you can't catch it as an adult, right? So they were either people who had it as a child who were then immune to it as an adult, or um, children who um, have gotten the virus. Um, but nowadays, there's people um, who have been or who are old enough to have not been vaccinated as a child, but and have never had the virus. So um, I would guess that there's probably more adult cases of measles compared to back prior to any sort of vaccination. Um, they Yeah, the demographics of the people who are infected with it would be different across the population. Um, um,
Um, um, did you watch the Olympics
no,
or the
no, I
ceremony
didn't
and all
even
that?
know they were starting until they had already started.
Mm.
Where
Somebody
is it?
actually asked me to go, but I would have had to left last week. Um, well, that's when they left. They were like, "You want to go?" And it was last Thursday, I believe. And I was like, "This week I'd have podcasts," and then I was just like, "I'm not going to be able to make it. I don't know where my passport is, so that's
I
the reason
mean,
I am still here."
an opportunity to go to the Olympics is something that I think is significant enough to say, guys, I'm not going to be at the podcast. I'm going to the Olympics. You know, let somebody else handle and just take care of like a once in a lifetime opportunity, you know. That'd be pretty epic. But um I don't know. You got 4 years to think about it, right? Or 2 years if you want to go to the summer.
Mm.
Do you have a favorite event in the Winter Olympics?
No, I do not actually. Um, I actually brought that up to talk about another article I had. It says maybe you didn't hear the boos at home, but the Winter Olympics opening ceremony became an outlet for rage. You had to listen carefully, but jeers for the Israeli
Delegation?
delegation. I'm sorry, um, delegation for the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance could be heard over the music in the vast San Siro Stadium. Hmm. I watched
Where
it and I actually seen him, but I didn't hear the booing. So when I seen the article, I was like, I got to read that, and I'll read it here. It says, "For a largely sedate and elegant spectacle, the Winter Olympics opening ceremony still became an outlet for rage in Milan. Pleas from International Olympic Committee President Kirsty Coventry to be respectful were ignored when four Israelis entered the San Siro in the athlete parade. You had to listen carefully, but boos could be heard over the music in the vast stadium. Simultaneously, parades were held games cluster across North Italy, while jeering was reported in Predazzo. There were cheers when Israelis marched in the mountain resort of Cortina de Ampezzo. Israeli has endured more harrowing days as the Olympics, with 11 of their athletes murdered by Palestinian terrorists in a massacre at Munich in 1972. For the Olympics, the IOC faced pressure to ban Israeli from competing over the thousands killed in the post 7 October war in Gaza, but rejected those calls. I did not hear that, but I did watch all the countries come out with the flags. It was really interesting and see how many teams had those big flags. And um, yeah, I watched it up until it was time to do the podcast yesterday. It was very interesting, but I did not hear the boos. And I did notice that some states had, like Israeli, they did have like 4 or 5 people, um, maybe a small amount of people, but yeah, uh,
Yeah, well,
we
I
should
mean,
go.
Israel is a small country, a small nation. It's like the size of New Jersey or something. So,
Oh,
um,
wow.
and they don't have big, tall, snowy mountains there. So the number of uh, winter athletes. I mean, I don't know. It makes sense that there wouldn't be many of them.
I just wanted to hear your thoughts on booing at the
I,
Olympics. I didn't hear it. I thought maybe you had watched it and heard it, but I heard it. I mean, I
I
didn't hear
haven't.
it, but I did watch it. Um,
I mean,
yeah,
I
I got
I
a lot
might
of
go
memories of
and
that.
watch it now, but I didn't see it. I don't know. I
Mm,
mean, be respectful of the people, you know, even
mm,
if you dislike the politics. It's the whole point of the Olympics is to put aside the
mm,
infighting politics and everything and just, you know, common humanity uh, celebration of, or a common celebration of humanity and athleticism and stuff. But uh, I don't know, everything is politicized this time. Everything is political, and that's a shame. That's a shame. Just I don't know.
mm.
I can't speak to the politics of a lot of this stuff. I'm not informed enough to know. I mean, like I said, I didn't even watch the the opening ceremony, but it is a little bit unsettling, given what they said, the history. There was the 1952 games in Munich, the Israeli delegation, I mean, of the athletes were killed. Um, and it it was not um I don't know. Uh, it's if it stays at just the booze, then that's good. But um the athletes themselves should not be subject to anything. Um,
Um, I read something on the apocalypse. You believe in such things?
that's that feels like a loaded question. I don't know. Um,
Well, I lost the article. I couldn't
I
find it
mean,
this morning, but
what
it said
about
something about Twinkies are the thing to be looking for, and yeah, it says Twinkies are going to be here forever. There was a whole article about what to go find to eat and what's going to be left over and stuff.
uh,
Um, I didn't know that Twinkies could be. Um, I think they said they could survive the nuke or whatever, the radiation. I forgot what the case was, but
no, that's just a meme from like 20 years ago or something, that um Twinkies are so full of chemicals and preservatives that they are not even going to break down after Armageddon, and that they just will survive anything. And after buildings crumble and collapse and all plant life dies, there will still be Twinkies fresh in their wrappers. And that's not true. They still have expiration dates just like anything else. Um, don't believe that. There's um, better things to stockpile in your underground bunker.
mm,
Um, but that is kind of, an interesting segue over to the Fallout show. You said you watched the rest of that or the finished season 2 of that?
I did. I did. It was
Yeah,
very good. Um, I wish I would have watched it slower because now I don't have anything to watch for a while. Well, I have a few other shows, but yeah, finished Fallout. You finish it? Did you like it?
I saw. Yeah, I finished season 2. I loved it. I had to go back. I was watching each episode as it was airing, and I still had to go back and rewatch each individual episode like multiple times each week before the next one and stuff. So I've watched all of season two probably 3 or 4 times already, just by virtue of not being able to go without the next episode. I gotta at least rewatch it, see what else I might catch in what Easter eggs or something are hidden. Some of them are really big and blatantly obvious, but there's a lot of little hidden things that they put in there that, gotta gotta savor. I'm glad that I didn't just wait until the whole end and just watch everything in one sitting like I did with the season one. Um, it was a bit better to kind of stretch it out and savor it. Um, but even so, like one episode at a time per week, it still feels a little stingy. I kind of, what happened to the days where a season of a television show had like 15 or 20 episodes? Now we
I
only get
like
like
that.
8. Yeah, we need more of this. But then I don't know, there's something, the scale and budget of it, they wouldn't necessarily be able to produce all of the special effects and the quality um, to the same degree. And they might not be able to afford to hire actors of the same caliber. Um, I don't know. But yeah, I guess we should probably try to avoid any spoilers for anybody on YouTube. It's kind of difficult to figure out how to dance around anything without giving anything away to anybody. Um, it's like we
Hey,
can't
the
really
season's
talk
dropped
about it.
already.
Huh?
I said the season's dropped already, so it's
Yeah,
almost
but
pretty late.
anybody who might be watching who hasn't already seen the whole thing, I don't want to blow the stuff. Maybe they haven't seen the series finale yet. Um, I don't know. Of course, now
Well,
my
I
mind is
waited.
also blanking. I might need to go rewatch the all of season two after we finish talking here now. As anyway, you know.
What I did was I waited until the full season was out, and then I just watched it all in 2 days. So I remember it perfectly, but I won't ruin it for you, so you can go back and do it.
I've seen the whole thing already, and
It was good.
so yeah, you wouldn't be spoiling anything for me, but um, yeah, I don't know. I love. There's a lot to unpack behind the season, the television show that I never thought that they would cover. I thought that they would keep a lot of what they are establishing um, set aside and reserved for um, like the mainline, like the next Fallout 5 or something, the mainline numbered games. I didn't think that Todd Howard would allow so much um, background to be talked about because they didn't. Um, the Enclave has been like so off limits um, out of the um, storyline of the past, what, all three games, right? Fallout 3, the Enclave wasn't a big part either. And yeah, and seeing the Vault Tech, the um, corporate Vault Tech stuff, um, that they, I mean, they talked about that and showed all that back in season one too. So that doesn't feel like a spoiler for the new season. But Yeah, like I like Barb a lot more now than I did initially. You know, they didn't they didn't portray her very flattering in season one. But I don't think, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I've rewatched all of the season two episodes multiple times ever since they started, but I don't think I've gone back and rewatched season one at all since season two started airing. Definitely not since season two finished. So I wonder um, if the if um, I don't know if there's any kind of hints back in season one as to the direction that her character would go in season two. You know, she's I don't know. It's interesting, and the way that Hank went.
Yeah. I think next season's going to be really good. Like they lead up to really big parts and then they just end the season. So I'm waiting for something big next season.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that it's not just next season two, though. I hope there's going to be a season four, season five. I mean, I
That's
want
what I
this
was
to.
thinking. I
Yeah,
like shows that don't end, that go on and on. They have a storyline, not just a goal to end the show. Um, yeah. That's why when they have like series that are gonna end really soon and you know it's a gonna be like one season, I try to just look at the trailers of those. But
yeah,
another thing I was
or
gonna
the series that are like so good that you know and they were set up so that they could go on forever, but then they just weren't picked up again, like the like Firefly. Have you watched Firefly
no, I
at all?
haven't. Um,
Oh, it's kind of like it's a sci-fi show with kind of like a Western sort of feel to it. It's yeah, it's good. It's a classic. At this point, I guess it's a classic. It's 15, 20 years old maybe now. I don't remember. I remember seeing the movie in the theaters, Serenity. They made the show and it was so beloved by fans that it when it didn't get picked up for the next season and they ended it on a cliffhanger, people wanted more, wanted something to be um um I mean, yeah, it ended on a cliffhanger. So they actually it got picked up and they brought in all of the actors and they made like a full feature film. Went to the theaters to kind of just wrap up the storyline because the TV show was so good and the world that it built was so good, but then they just stopped, you know? Um, so it seems common in sci-fi for some reason, or maybe I'm just too much of a sci-fi fan, but
eh,
Firefly and then um, The Expanse. The Expanse was incredible. And that was another like that's also on Amazon too. It was originally on Sci-Fi Channel, and then they did like two seasons, and then they didn't pick it up anymore. And there was a fan campaign um, that was like directed at Jeff Bezos to try to convince Amazon Prime Studios to pick up The Expanse to continue the television series because it was based on a series of novels that's like, there's a whole bunch more content there that they left on the table. Um, so the fans did a Kickstarter and raised enough money to hire one of those planes that flies a banner, and they were flying it around the Amazon headquarters with this banner, like telling them about, please continue Firefly or something. I don't know or not Firefly, The Expanse. Let me see. I need to look up what the banner said, but um, uh, um,
Um, I was gonna move on to Nature's Maid. Shout out to Nature's Maid. Um,
yeah, hold on. I'll be back in a second.
all right. Well, until then, you guys, we got Nature's Made gummies, omega 3. Um, one thing I was gonna say is I got them because it says stuff about muscle health, and I'm getting myoclonic jerks. I thought it might be good for that, but then also I put those on the counter, and my mother had taken one, and she was thinking something bad was gonna happen because it says omega 3 for him. And the one I got for her says for her, and she took mine and she was thinking it was gonna be a problem this morning. I don't know what problem you would have if you took a vitamin that's for a man and it's taken by a woman. Of course, we're gonna get Mark to dig into that because now I'm interested. Well, I know nothing bad is gonna happen to my mom, but obviously something is happening. Um, not sure what it is. Anybody have any ideas about these multi plus omega 3s for him? They come in strawberry, lemon, and orange. Oh, hey, Mark.
Hey,
I was
I
just
feel so much
saying,
better now.
I was just saying that my mother took these this morning, and it's multi plus omega 3s for him. I have the one for her, but she took the one for him. Um, she was she was bothered that she thought something might happen. Something might be wrong that she took the for him and not for her. The flavors are the same. Is there anything that could happen if you take a for him and not a for her?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. Um, um, yeah, I don't know. You're gonna make me go and look it up now, see what the difference in the formula is between them. I don't think that, I mean, well, people's bodies aren't that different. Male and female aren't so different that they need drastically different nutrients. We can all survive off of the same meals back in like olden times and stuff. It just, um, I don't know. I don't, I mean, your mom can rest assured that she's not going to have any ill effects. It just maybe, I don't know. I don't think there's,
Mm.
huh.
I'm thinking of maybe test driving some for her and see how long I could take those and what that might cause.
I mean, I don't think there would be any reason for you to, okay, for him, for her, tailored to different gender specific needs. So, for her, formulas typically contain higher iron, folic acid, and calcium for reproductive, bone, and menstrual health. For him, products often omit iron, focusing instead on nutrients for muscle, immune, and energy metabolism. So, yeah, it's not drastically different. There's just a little bit more of something or a little bit less of this other thing. Um, just if she just takes the the her preferred one the next day, I don't think that there would be any reason not to just continue taking it for him unless there's some, I don't know. Either way, um, Yeah, primary difference is the inclusion of iron for women's formulas, and men's formulas often exclude it to prevent excess intake. So if the men's formulas have less iron because women need more, then the most that could happen to her today is that she just has a little bit less iron than she would have had otherwise. It's not gonna be an issue in this span of time between today and tomorrow when she takes her next med, so or next vitamins. So yeah, she should be fine.
Yeah, I was. Well, I got a message from Kate, and it was very helpful. Kate, she's watching it. She said, "You don't want a woman to take men's multivitamin long term. Mineral buildup potential. Sounds like every other fact page says taking his vitamin once won't do anything. Good. She wants to start standing and peeing and stuff. I'm just kidding. Um, yeah. Well, she'll be all right today. Well, good to know that. I don't know what she was thinking was going to happen, but nothing. Um, Mark, I wanted to go back to that um, recording we listened to earlier of the guy saying that we did not help for sleep and anxiety and stuff like that. Um, how do you feel about that? Because it stayed on my mind, and I do think the weed has been very good for helping me sleep. Lately, I got some indicas that really helped, and that's just a personal thing. You feel like there's any cases where this is actually helpful? Because that guy sounds like he says we're lying, basically.
I mean, yeah, there's cases where it's helpful. It's like he can say in that recording whatever he wants that, I mean, what did he say? Like they say it helps with, sleep. It doesn't. They say it helps with pain, blah blah blah. It doesn't. What proof or evidence does he have to say that it doesn't, aside from him, by virtue of his own authority saying so? And his own authority is not a good reason to accept or believe something or change any belief, because my authority is just as authoritative. What is he? Does he have a doctorate in anything? Is he a PhD or an MD? Is he like, or is it just a random dude? And even if he is an MD or a PhD, what is it in? How does that? Because if he's got a degree and a PhD in art history, that doesn't qualify him to say that cannabis doesn't help with sleep. I mean, there are some studies that have shown that it can negatively impact the quality of sleep that a person has, but there's studies that have shown that it can positively impact. There's nothing conclusive either way necessarily, but um, there is enough firsthand experience to show that, you know, it is effective. If you don't, or just because um, studies have not proven, does not mean it is not true. Um, I
And
mean,
then
I think we
shoveling these
touched we
motherfucker actions with
um, touched on something, related, or a related idea on the last one, that science is not an end destination. It is the process by which truth is discovered. Truth about reality, um, in any form, any aspect of it. So, um, just because this process has not shown something does not mean that something is not there. So, I don't know. I think that there's a big problem with the perception of science these days. It's taken almost religiously to be the authority on anything and everything. You can say studies have shown, and all of a sudden you can sound like somewhat of an expert. Um, I don't know. Just because those studies have shown something doesn't mean those studies were performed well. Um, I don't know. Yeah. I
Um, I'm gonna play the recording again for
Yeah.
people watching. Then I'm gonna look at the comments because there's a lot of comments, thousands of comments. This is
I
on
bet.
Twitter.
I bet.
Uh,
There comes
yeah,
a
this is on Twitter.
firestorm.
So here we go. One more time.
Tell you something with 50, I don't know what they're doing, but I'll tell you something with 50 million or more people smoking pot regularly in this country now, grandma and grandma getting into the act, almost 10%, it's going to send absolutely the wrong message. And I'll tell you why this is happening. Because they think it has medicinal use. They think it's going to help you sleep at night. They think it's going to decrease your anxiety and decrease your pain. None of that has been shown medically. It increases your anxiety. It doesn't help you sleep at night.
Hold
And
on.
it
Can you
doesn't
stop it
treat
right
pain.
there?
9 states where it's medicinally
Because
used is a disgrace, and that
Say that again.
okay. There's two different ideas there that aren't necessarily like he goes and kind of blends them together. But he says because they think da 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 da. They think da 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 da. They think da 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 da. Okay, so those are, an established premise, right? They think all of these things. And he says, none of that is true. Okay. Oh, I mean, that statement has no value in itself. He goes like, none of that has been shown medically. Again, I was like, why does just because he's not seen the studies does not mean that the benefit is not there. I don't know. It bothers me. He kind of goes right past that big blurring of two different statements. I don't know. Did you send me a link? I feel like I need to here read. I lost
Uh,
what I was going to say before there was, um, yeah, sorry. I shouldn't have had you pause it there. I should have listened to the rest of it, heard it out, but
yeah, we can
something,
listen to it again if you
there was something I
have the
wanted to
patience.
dissect there.
Um,
Um,
listen in, listen again.
yeah.
All right.
doing. But I'll tell you something with 50 million or more people smoking pot regularly in this country now, grandma and grandma getting into the act, almost 10%, it's going to send absolutely the wrong message. And I'll tell
Okay.
you why
None
this
of
is
this
happening.
matters.
Because
None of
they
this is
think
important.
it has medicinal use.
None of
They
this
think
is important. None of that is matter. Like keep it going, but none of
it's
what
going to
he's
help you
saying.
sleep at night. They think it's going to decrease your anxiety and decrease your pain. None of that has been shown medically. It increases
There's a
your
statement.
anxiety. It doesn't help you sleep at night,
That
and it
doesn't
doesn't treat
matter. That
pain.
doesn't matter.
39
No,
states where it's medicinally used is a disgrace, and that's what led to the 24
that's
states
just
where
a
it's
number.
recreationally used. People flooding emergency rooms, people getting into car accidents. They say, well, it's safer than
Correlation is
alcohol,
not
but they're taking it
causation.
with alcohol, and it's doubling the amount of car accidents with both substances on board over the last 2 decades. I'm really
They
worried
were
about this.
doing that before anyway. How would they know if there was any difference compared to before? They weren't testing for it in the same way in the emergency rooms. People were smoking and drinking together before. That's not new. That's not a change. Um, None of what he said before that matters. None of that goes to his point that it has no medicinal value. The number of states that have legalized it doesn't matter. That's not evidence to his point. 39 states, that's not evidence, that's just a number. Um, that's not medical uh, proof, medical evidence like he emphatically demanded earlier. He's just making a bunch of opinions, saying a single fact that is completely irrelevant, and then making a bunch more opinions that don't really prove anything that he's saying. So I can just say, no, he's wrong. And that's boom, argument over. The burden of proof is on the person making the claim. He's saying that it has no medicinal value. He's saying that these people are a problem, prove the problem, and he doesn't have any evidence he doesn't have any more evidence than the people who would say it does, have value. It has been used for a long time. I mean, how can he say it has not been proven to help with pain? That's not true. Like that's one of the first things that it was shown to help with. Like reduce the need for opioid painkillers in terminal cancer patients. That was one of the first things that cannabis was found to be effective in. That was one of the first things that it was approved for medically was pain relief, reducing painkiller need. You can't say it's not proven to be, that's not medically proven when it has been since the 90s. Same thing with seizure control. CBD when isolated by itself is now a patented medication for epilepsy treatment. So you can't say it has no value, no medical value. Like just those statements that I made right there, more proof than anything he says in his entire tirade. I mean, I don't need to provide links. Anybody can go and search that for themselves. Those were headline news back in, 90s, early 2000s, back when medical marijuana was brand new thing, when it was only Colorado and California. The Charlotte's Web strain. I mean, come on. That guy's a moron. He is just talking out of his ass and I don't know, he sounds like a true believer too. I don't think that he's just, you know, trying to get it sounds like he genuinely believes drugs
What do you say?
bad. Okay. Drugs
Um,
bad. He listened to the Dare program back in the 80s, 90s. Drug awareness or resistance education, something like that, right? The police officers come in the children's classrooms in public school and talk to them about how drugs are bad. And cannabis got lumped in with that whole thing. And then um, now he's too entrenched to be able to reconsider anything. Probably doesn't even realize that those are all just opinions that he stated. He probably thinks he's made actual proof, actual evidence, and that he's actually backed up by anything. I don't know. I bet the Twitter feedback is all just a big mess.
It is. Would you like me to go through it? Because I wanted to.
If you would like to go through it, I'll sit here and listen.
All right, I'll read the first 10 comments and we'll
Mm.
see what you think about them. The first one says, honestly, it stinks and I can't stand it. Pot isn't even legal in North Carolina, but we have it. We have to smell it all over the place in my quaint suburb. My 12-year-old daughter knows what it smells like. Just today, I picked her up from school and smelled skunky weed while driving home. On the way to dinner, we drove past the same area on a parallel roads. Still smelled like still smelled like it, and I was going 60 miles per hour with the windows up. It's gross, and I hate it. I'm sorry, and I'm not sorry. It was good weed if you smelled it later with the windows up in
I mean,
passing.
her 12-year-old kid would probably have known what it smells like anyway if you were going to public school. And I, if they're smelling it literally everywhere, I would probably tend to lean towards they're imagining it everywhere, maybe. Um, uh, Whatever.
Another comment here says he's correct. There's tons of data on this going back to the 60s and before.
He's
Wow.
correct. What did he say that was correct? He made a bunch of
They didn't.
statements and none of them sounded correct to me.
Someone's response to that says, as a stage 4 cancer patient, I completely disagree. There are medical uses. It is one thing that helps with the nausea and increases the appetite so I don't lose weight under this strong chemo. It also does help me with sleep, but there are side effects with it, just like any other drug.
I mean, come on. Cancer, like I said, pain, nausea, weight loss, seizures, right? Seizure control, all proven for a long time. Long, long time.
Another
Backed
comment
up
here says,
anecdotally there and by actual research, not just it's been proven since the 60s. Point out to something. What's been proven? They said nothing. Just my opinion has been proven since the 60s. They're just saying they're right because they want to be right. They don't actually know anything, any reason for their opinion. They just want to hold it. So they say that people who agree with them are right. Of course, they could probably say the same to me, but I don't know. At least I have seizures, have seen it help with them. I have been on anti-epilepsy drugs. I have problems with nausea, with weight loss, with appetite. I mean, I've weighed less than 120 for a long time.
wow,
I need to gain weight, and it's if I don't have an appetite, how can I gain weight? Um,
you got to live with my mom. I don't have an appetite a lot of times, and she'll bring 3 to 4 square meals a day and just sit it next to me. Eventually, I end up
that's
eating
awesome.
it because with it sitting there, like she brought these White Castle sliders and put them on a plate and handed it to me.
Nice.
Um, they're good, uh, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
wait.
You see,
Um,
that's another thing. Like I'm living, with my parent, like I'm also living with my mother. both of my parents here, but my mother has medical issues that prevent her from eating dairy. Um, my father has diabetes, well, pre-diabetes. He's working on type 2 diabetes, I think. So there's not, no gluten in the house. Everything is, has to be gluten-free or dairy-free for one or the other. So the whole, there are no full square meals available here necessarily without my having to go and seek them out or prepare them on my own. And that's not necessarily, I can't drive myself anywhere to do anything about it. So there's a lot of difficulties here with um, trying to change that situation. So yeah, um, I don't like
We should
people
switch
who say that.
places.
Yeah, well, hey,
My mom
mom
will feed
swap
you.
for a week.
Mom swap.
Yeah,
That could be a
um,
thing.
yeah, but it's
Wow.
yeah, it's a touchy subject for me when people say that cannabis has no value, no medical value. Mm, mm, yeah.
A few more comments here I'll read. One says, I'm in Denver, the first state approving weed for recreational use. It's a gateway drug that leads to deception. There were no homeless in the 80s, none. Now our streets are filled. So too are LA, Seattle, Portland. It lets the guard down. This guy's speaking truth. Hmm.
The
The
gateway
comments I
drug
thought would say
myth
the
has
opposite.
been, yeah,
The comments I thought
correlation
would
and
say,
causation. There's been a lot of things that have happened between now and then, like the opioid crisis, for example, the Sackler family pumping prescription painkillers out for everything from stage 4 cancer to, sprained ankle. Um, they flooded the United States with legally prescribed um, strong opioid painkillers. Got a whole huge segment of the population addicted, um, just because they were following their doctor's directions, not because they were seeking out a high. They were just following what the pill bottle said, what they were told to. The doctors were just following what they were told, directed, recommended by the FDA. The FDA was kind of working hand in glove with the pharmaceutical companies on the development of the regulations and procedures for prescribing these medications. So when it comes to a point where it was recognized as a problem, where it was seen that these things shouldn't be, you shouldn't be giving hydrocodone when a couple Advil and, you know, 3 or 4 days of staying off it, off an ankle would fix the problem. But that's not the way it was happening. So legislation came around and tighter restrictions from the DEA and the FDA around prescriptions, and the floodgates were shut. So all of a sudden, you have a big chunk of the population who went from patients to addicts, and their supply line was cut off. So what are they going to do? Right? Overnight, they just don't have their um, uh, their prescriptions anymore once they run out, and they start going through withdrawals. I mean, that's something you need to taper off of the prescription painkillers if you're going to go from daily doses to coming off, you need to go down gently or you're going to have big fucking problems. So they didn't do that for this huge chunk of the population. So they went to the black market, obviously. They can't, it's the same sort of situation with prohibition. You make the legal supply illegal, and the bad guys will just come in and fill the void. Because people are still gonna, people are gonna do what people are gonna do, whether you say they can or not. So that's how the big opioid crisis came about. Um, that's how all of those people came to be addicts, how they ended up um, losing their homes, how they ended up homeless on the streets, how that is a manufactured problem. It's not inherent to cannabis use. It's not a gateway drug. That's a complete myth that has been shown to be a myth since what? I don't know. I think it's probably always been known that it's not really a gateway drug by the people who actually know what they're talking about. I think it's been pushed in order to fit an agenda. If people knew that they could grow a plant for themselves that would help with their pain more than the prescription pharmaceuticals that are lining the pockets of the pharmaceutical companies and the bureaucrats and the politicians who are making the rules that say you can't grow that plant. You have to buy these pills made by this company. And, no, you can't point to the homeless, the addicts, and say, there's evidence that the gateway drug is real and that, all of these people started smoking recreational weed in Colorado and California first and then went on to become, you know, fentanyl addicts. Only if you ignore the entirety of the history from your assertion to reality. That person has their head so far up their own ass, oh my gosh, no, bad, stupid person, bad, no, wrong.
When you said fentanyl, that brought me to another post I had actually. You're on point today. You're bringing me to my list of things that all relate to other things.
Hell
And it
yeah,
says why bombing
we're on the
Mexico
same
won't stop
wavelength here.
fentanyl. Why bombing Mexico won't stop fentanyl, but legalizing cannabis would.
Mhm.
When warmongering won't stop fentanyl, but legalizing weed would do the trick. There's a disturbing amount of noise on Twitter right now about the U.S. conducting military strikes in Mexico against drug cartels. Americans who've apparently learned nothing from the history of cheering for drone strikes, special forces operations, and full scale military intervention as the solution to the fentanyl crisis. Let me be clear, this is possibly the dumbest fucking idea in the timeline already overflowing with dumb fuckery ideas. And this is actually on the internet. Uh, yeah, this is not something someone typed. This is on the internet. And it says, and I say this as someone who's been covering drug policy for decades, who's watched this exact playbook fail spectacularly in Colombia, Panama, Afghanistan, and Mexico itself in 2006, every single time. The pattern is always the same. Big military operation, lots of explosions, dead cartel leaders, media celebrates, politicians claim victory, and then 6 months later, drugs are flowing again, often in greater quantities from the more violent cartels with deadlier consequences. Because here's what the war cheerleaders don't understand or refuse to acknowledge: you can't bomb away a market force, you cannot militarily eliminate demand, and you absolutely cannot kill your way out of public health crisis. But you know what? You can actually work that would save lives, defund cartels, and cost less money while generating. Oh wait, what would save lives? Defund cartels and cost less money while generating revenues. Another one says legalizing and regulating all drugs. I know. That sounds radical. It sounds scary. It sounds like I'm some kind of anarchist, lunatic who wants to see America drowning in drugs. But hear me out, because unlike military intervention, which has a 100% failure rate over 5 decades, this approach is backed by math, evidence, and basic economy principles that even a stoned teenager can understand why military intervention will again. Um, says, let's start with the why the end quote bomb the cartels approach is doomed from the start. The Hydra effect. Every time you kill a cartel leader or destroy a drug operation, they don't eliminate the organization, you fragment it. What was one cartel becomes three smaller, more violent cartel fighting for the
Yeah.
territory
The
and
three
market
smaller
share.
cartels have to fight each other, so the most violent of those three becomes the new head of that same region. Same people down at the foot soldier level. It's just new management up at the top. I don't know how that isn't obvious to.
It's like once you take the boss away, three of the staff, somebody else has to step up and be the boss. And that means fighting for it, literally.
Yeah.
Uh, Let me keep reading. It says Mexico learned this the hard way in 2006 when President Felipe Calderon launches militarized drug war. The result? Over 350,000 deaths, more than 100,000 disappearances, and cartels that are more powerful, more violent, and more diversified than ever before. The Sinaloa cartel split into factions. The Zetas emerged as a hyper-violent paramilitary force. The Gulf cartel fractured into pieces, and through it all, drugs kept flowing north while the violence spiraled out of control. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I would agree personally. I mean, as as much as I dislike the libertarian sort of label that comes with a lot of a lot of this stuff, it because libertarianism has a particular um I don't know, particular image in a lot of people's mind. But I mean, I don't know, see, common theme, but prohibition doesn't work. You make something illegal, you just create a black market for it. You don't make it go away, especially when it's a it's a market that was manufactured by actual individuals in that economy itself. So, um, yeah, I would, I mean, not just legalize weed. I would say that, you know, drug prohibition shouldn't, or at the consumer level, the user should not be criminalized for their addiction. Um, and whatever it takes for them to get the help, get the treatment, even if that means removing the illegality of the substance that they have and making it um, monitored and quality controlled rather than, Portugal has done something similar to this. They've decriminalized the use of drugs um,
All
Actually, they
drugs?
did it. The users, not it's not that drugs are legal to use and just sold everywhere and everything. It's um, the person themselves is not a criminal just because they have used these substances. So, you know, failing a drug test is not a crime in Portugal, but at the same time, it's not a legal market there. They're not selling all of these things legally. It's still a crime to import it, to sell it, all of that stuff. But the person down who actually consumes it isn't a criminal for consuming it.
I seen something on the internet, and it was someone fighting for someone who was on a particular drug. I forgot what it was, but now what they're saying is what she said was, he's not violent, he's not on drugs, he's sick. Um, so now, if you're on drugs, you're not an addict, you're sick. So you can get help. They say, um, yeah, you can go to what's it called, like a rehab. What if it's weed? Is what I was gonna say. Um, are they considering all the sicknesses of using drugs considered a sickness actually? Because am I sick because I smoke weed? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, you smoke weed because you're sick, so um, I don't know. Um, I mean, the substances themselves are still illegal. The possession is still not, you know, but it's treated as like a more like a speeding ticket than a jail time sort of thing. So, it's not fully legalized, it's just decriminalized. So, um, I don't know. I don't know what the status of cannabis is over there. I don't think that it's necessarily as open as it is in a lot of the United States. But in that part of Europe, in Portugal in particular, there's a big history of um, hash more than weed over there, which, they get drug boats running up just from Morocco right across the Strait of Gibraltar up there. It's a short hop up into Portugal, so they have the same sort of problem with drug boats, kind of fast drug boats over in Portugal and Spain that we do over here with Texas and Mexico border area, running the boats like they were over in the news not too long ago. That boat that the military actually bombed, and people were like, "This is, that's not a law enforcement thing," you know. But um, yeah, I don't know. So, what's that?
um, I actually took you into that to bring up that since you're near Florida, I mean, or in Florida, I had a post here. It says Floridians to won't vote on recreational marijuana this November. State says.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think about that? Do you think they're gonna change their mind? This says Floridians also. So I'll read the article.
Hmm.
It says a proposed amendment that would have led adults buy and use recreational marijuana failed to qualify for Florida's 2026 ballot. The Department of State said Sunday. Smart and Safe Florida, the group behind the marijuana campaign, fell short of nearly 880,000 votes, verified signatures required, along with 21 other proposed constitutional amendments, according to the Department of State. The campaign shortfall comes after months of state derivatives or directives that tossed out tens of thousands of verified petitions from Florida voters. That includes a state push to remove about 200,000 petitions that were directly mailed to voters and about 70,000 petitions collected by non-Floridians residents or signed by inactive voters, a technical designation that does not remove a person's ability to vote. Smart and Safe Florida challenged those directives in court, but judges largely sided with the state. In a statement on Sunday, a spokesperson for the marijuana campaign called the state's declaration, in quote, premature, saying that the final and complete totals were not yet reported. We submitted over 1.4 million signatures and believe when they are all counted, we will have more than enough to make the ballot, the spokesperson said. So one day you're going to be able to smoke weed recreationally there, but not this time, is what they're saying.
I mean, it's just dumb. I don't think it will happen in the state until a presidential election year, just because um, the 4-year voter cycle draws more people out to the polls than, um, you know, midterm elections. So I wasn't optimistic about it happening this time anyway. But the whole thing, I mean, the state fighting against it actively, I think is a pretty um I don't know. When when it came up on the ballot last election, 2024, and it was it was put up as a constitutional amendment where Florida voters could vote on it directly. Um, they require a 2/3 majority in the state in order to pass as an amendment. Um, so, it's like a super majority, not just a simple majority. So even though, like, I think it was over 60% of voters or of votes that were cast in 2024 were yes to Amendment 3 for recreational marijuana. So 60% of the state wanted it, um, but it fell short of the 66.66% or whatever number they want to go with. So, um, yeah, it's not surprising to me that it wasn't approved, but I mean, it's something I brought up on the podcast before. The the medical marijuana laws in Florida are basically just a pay to play recreational state. You go to a doctor and just tell them something. It doesn't Most cannabis doctors don't even really ask for much of any proof of anything. They'll um um they'll advertise that if get you don't pay unless you get approved. Uh, so they want to find some medical reason for you to need cannabis. Um, so yeah, it's like insomnia or anxiety or whatever, you know, doesn't really matter. And they'll give you your recommendation, and then you go to the state and pay the medical marijuana board whatever administrative fee for your card, your registration, and then you're good to go. For somebody who's never had a medical marijuana card, you just go to the special doctor. A lot of them even have an office like right next door, or even like partnered with a dispensary. They'll look at you and whatever, and then take your money, like 150, $200 or so, um, put your information in electronically with the state, and then you pull up on your phone the state's um, stuff, type in your information, pay another $75 to the state, and then you can just go to the counter with your driver's license and buy whatever, you know, um, up to your potential allotment. So up to 2 ounces of smokable weed. Um, it's not, it's basically recreational at this point. So I don't know. What do you think?
I was gonna say, like here in California, the laws aren't like there. You can just go in with an ID and pop up whenever you're ready. You don't have to set an appointment to talk to a doctor. I have not had to deal with other states' laws and stuff like that. So I've never had a card. Uh, Once it was able to be recreational, um, yeah, just had it. But it's never really been a big deal in California that I know of. Maybe back before me, maybe the early to late '90s. Yeah. So another thing I was gonna say is if there was a president who felt different about how all these other people feel about weed, could he legalize it just across the United States, or does it have to be legalized in every state? I mean, separately.
I think it would flip then. I think that if there was a um at the executive branch level, whatever, so the FDA, DEA, or I guess no, it's the DEA because it's at the federal level that it was made illegal. So it's the Controlled Substances Act of the federal government that says cannabis is illegal and you know, no. Um, so it was recently moved from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. So it's starting to ease up at the federal level. But if it was suddenly like said, no, um, no more restrictions, prohibition, anybody anywhere in the United States can toss some seeds in their garden and grow their own bud, whatever, just like back just like George Washington did, you know? Um, the the difference then would be that it could come up at the state level that they could make their own controlled substances law and the state could then prohibit it. So if it's legalized at the federal level, then some of the more conservative, like red states, might then go and say, no, we still don't want it. Just like there's some parts of the country that, there are dry counties in particularly conservative, um, Bible Belt parts of the country that, you have to go across the county border over and buy it at the liquor store just on the other side of the line, imaginary line, for no particular reason except that some people wanted it that way. Um, so I would assume probably any of the places that are dry states or dry counties, I'll just say dry, um, they would probably enact their own restrictions on cannabis use in some way, at some level. Um, I think I, I think I even remember hearing that the the county that Jack Daniels is produced in, the distillery is located in a dry county, so they can't even. So I might be imagining that. Um, Yeah, the Jack Daniel Distillery is located in Lynchburg, Tennessee, which is in Moore County, a dry county that has prohibited the sale of alcohol since Prohibition. Despite this, a 1995 law allows the distillery to sell commemorative bottles on site, and tastings are permitted during tours, making it a unique exception to local laws. So, yeah, the dry county status, no retail sales. You cannot buy Jack Daniels in local stores, restaurants, or bars, although some local restaurants are now allowed to sell alcohol. Bars? Why, what is a bar in a dry county except just a restaurant? Like, right? Isn't a bar just a place that just serves alcohol? Just a place to drink? Like,
Uh,
what's the point of a bar if you're not allowed to serve alcohol? It sounds
right.
like it could be like the what do they call them over in Holland? The coffee shops over in Holland, coffee shops where you're allowed to smoke, but technically a lot of people don't realize this, or a lot of people in America don't realize this, but um, despite the reputation, Holland is actually a rather conservative country in a lot of ways. Um, so the um, the coffee shops that are permitted to sell marijuana are the only places, aside from your own private residence, are the only places that you're actually permitted to consume it. So if you're a tourist and you go over to Holland and you buy, a pre-roll joint in a coffee shop, and then you go out and um, sit out by the riverside watching boats go by and smoking your joint, you get in trouble. Um, so yeah, I'm imagining now if they're bars, but they're not allowed to serve alcohol, and then cannabis gets legalized, could they just become like a Tennessee version of coffee shops that they could just you could smoke in there, but you can't drink in the bar for some reason, unless the bar is Jack Daniel's bar, then you can taste commemorative. I don't know. It's weird. A lot of these rules are eh, whatever.
Um,
People should
Curious
just be
question.
allowed to consume what they want, and if they, nobody else should. eh.
Um, Curious. I mean, just quick question. Um, when it comes to like being on a boat, what states govern you if you were to break a law or let's say smoke on a boat in certain waters? Is there laws governing you in the water? Like if you leave this state, let's say 150 miles out, and then you smoke or whatever laws you break out there, do you still go to jail? And do they choose the state, or is there like,
I mean, if there's sales possession laws in the state, then you'd be breaking the law. When you get on the boat, you'd be breaking the law until you get past like into international waters, and then it's international. Like no nation has any say over what happens or what people do necessarily, which sounds really sketchy. But yeah, you could do what you want there, and then um, yeah, it'd be all gone. So then you wouldn't be breaking the law by the time you get back. So I guess it could be viewed as a very creative way to dispose of your illicit substances um, for your state. You're taking
yeah,
care
that's
of a
what I was
problem for them, getting it out of the state. But no, I don't know. I don't know if there are any states that have gone to the level of creating specific legislation about boat operation in open waters. But even if they have, it's only goes as far as the state's authority, you know? It wouldn't I don't know. I don't know what I think it's isn't it 15 nautical miles, I think offshore? Maybe. I might just be making that up off.
No idea.
I'm very good at not remembering exactly where I've seen something, which makes it difficult to remember if I actually saw it or if I'm just making stuff up. So
Hmm.
that's why I say don't necessarily take my word for anything. Double check. It's a good rule of thumb for everybody. And if
Um,
I'm wrong, tell me. If you ever double check and I want to know. I don't want to, I'm not trying to be like to win. I want to be right, you know. So if I'm wrong, I want to be corrected.
when my laptop gets here, then I can fact check everything you say.
Okay, good.
I haven't fact checked anything you've said to date. I always take what you say, take it with a grain of salt, and I believe you. You sound like you know your facts. Like I'll ask you one question, and we'll go into 30 minutes of talking about that. So I'm like, okay, no need to fact check. He said something in there that had to be
Something in
true.
there. Not everything necessarily, always.
I'll look at the
There's
comments and we'll see who agrees or disagrees. But
Yeah, yeah. Anybody on YouTube, let me know if I'm blowing out my ass. But I just did a search international waters on the high sea begin um, beyond a 12 nautical mile distance. Um, or wait, international, yeah. Or the high seas begin beyond a country's 12 nautical mile territorial sea, extending to the edge of its 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone or further. Or no, that's okay. Maritime zones defined by distance. Territorial seas are 0 to 12 nautical miles. So full national sovereignty, like land. If you're on a boat within 12 nautical miles of the shore, it's just like if you were standing on the shore of that, that's your, yeah. And then contiguous zone is 12 to 24 nautical miles. So there's limited jurisdiction for customs, fiscal, immigration, or sanitary laws. And then there's the exclusive economic zone up to 200 nautical miles for sovereign rights for resource exploration like oil and fishing, but generally permit free navigation. And then the high seas, ooh, go 200 nautical miles or further beyond the the shoreline. So, yeah,
hmm.
there is no one simple answer to that, it seems. Bureaucrats like to complicate stuff.
I was thinking, how far do you go until you're out of a state?
Out of a state. Yeah. 12 miles would be the full national sovereignty. So I would assume that would be the same as the state sovereignty.
Oh,
And then a
so you
limited jurisdiction for customs would have to be the federal level, right? Are there state customs enforcement too? I
I'm
don't know.
unsure. I haven't done the research, and if I have heard the info before, then I forgot it because
It
my
hasn't
memory
been
resets after like every 30 seconds.
goldfish
Uh,
memory.
yeah. Um, another thing that just came back to my memory because you know how the memory works. Um, you said something about George Washington, how George Washington did it some years ago or something. Uh, Forgot how you exactly said it, but I was going to say, what did George Washington do?
Grow cannabis, just like George Washington. Yeah. Washington and Jefferson, I think both grew hemp on their plantations.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, and the hemp that they grew is really no different than what we grow today, except that means it's selected and the male plants are removed from the growing process in order to encourage the female plants to produce larger buds because it's the female flowers that are used when consuming cannabis. The female flowers are what produce the aroma um, part of the experience that is intended to attract the pollinators, insects and everything because it smells nice. Um, Broadcasts it's sent out to the area. And that's also as part of that is also the cannabinoids, the THC and everything. So, if the plant um, gets pollinated, then it focuses all of its energy on producing the seeds. And, because that's a very metabolically intense process, the reproduction um, of the fertile seeds. Um, so if they don't get pollinated, then the plant keeps growing the flower um, in a way that is, adapted to make it more and more attractive. Um, so they get bigger, they produce more THC, um, trichomes, crystally, how it looks frosty and everything, that the nice flower. Um,
Mhm.
and, bigger and bigger scent to them. Um, so you're effectively taking the ladies um, away from the general population and preventing them from getting any action. So they're effectively getting more and more and more sexually frustrated, and they're expressing that as bigger, bigger, prettier, more pleasant smelling flowers, all as a big attempt to get pollinated, to try to, this is all an adaptation that is intended to um, perpetuate the genetics. So keeping that pollination from happening is how you get the big flowers that are useful for um, smoking and stuff. If you just freely throw the seeds around and let the males sprout with the females and let them, just go to town, whatever, do as they do in the wild, then the female flowers won't get as big, they won't get as attractive. So I mean, that's um, I don't know. Back in the olden times, 20 years ago, there was a lot of weed grown that way that was imported into Florida that I remember when I first started partaking. It just was, super seedy, stemmy. You have to pull all these seeds out. And because it was grown like that, because there were all these seeds in there with it, it was really, really low grade, low quality because it had had so much of its metabolic effort put into making viable seeds rather than making cannabinoids. Um, so you use a lot of that, roll a gigantic blunt to get the same amount that you get from a small bowl yourself. But the yeah, the diary notes of um of these founding fathers. I think it was both of them. I think it was both Washington and Jefferson. It might be one or the other, but I'm pretty sure it was both of them. Their plantation notes show that they had grown um, using that sort of methodology, that they had grown. Sensinia, I think, is the name for it. It was like a Spanish word that meant seedless, essentially. Um, And I'm sure any Spanish speakers that are ever going to listen to this will probably laugh at me for pronunciation or for just getting things flat out wrong there. But um, seedless cannabis is basically only useful for intoxication purposes. It doesn't have, because it's the female, they're not growing these big, long stalks. So they're not as useful for the plant fibers. If you're putting all of this energy into getting these plants to make big flowers, all of that energy could have just been put into allowing them to grow and get bigger and then turning them into rope for ships, sailing ships. Hemp was incredibly important back in the colonial era for its fibers, its stuff, making sails, making rope, um, sailing ships. The entire economy would collapse if there was no hemp at that time. So, um, but the fact that seedless hemp was being grown means that it wasn't just the fiber that was valued at that time. And seeing that seedless hemp being grown at a founding father's plantation means dot 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 question mark. What there's a some dots that seem pretty clear when they connect. It's it's been kind of a cornerstone of the
Hmm.
American economy in a lot of ways, not just underground, but all the way back.
Um, yeah. It's been a great freaking day, Mark.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow,
we went
3 hours
3 hours.
already. Time flies.
Yeah. The last thing I will say is I have an article here. A guy found a knife in his sandwich. Um,
What?
yes, I found a knife perfectly imprinted in the bottom of my delivered Subway sandwich. Do you think this guy has a case? He said they should also might include a knife. Um,
Um,
yeah. You want a picture?
did the restaurant want their knife back?
I have no idea.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like,
Well, I mean,
how'd you lose that? uh,
yeah. I mean, look at that handle. They made it that color for a reason. That's
yeah,
crazy.
like you can't miss that when you're folding that sandwich in there. I don't
Well,
understand how that.
apparently you can miss that.
Well, I mean, yeah, we see
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Wow. That is, I mean, I don't know.
You
That's
think he could sue?
negligent, but did, is it? I don't know. It,
I think he should sue and be like, I almost ate a knife.
I guess, but what's the probability that you would actually hurt yourself like that? Like
Mhm.
it looks like you couldn't be able to pick up the two halves of the sandwich without the knife falling out in some way. You probably wouldn't have ever actually bitten down on a blade, but I don't know. That's that's I mean,
Mm.
Is that even real? These days, I'm not sure if I can even trust any of these headlines. In a lot of cases, like somebody could go and say, hey, Grok or ChatGPT, give me an image of a Subway sandwich with a knife sitting in it.
It's very much
Uh,
possible.
uh,
There's a lot of comments here. I'll read the comments though. One says that's worth a few free sandwiches, I think. Just check for those knives next time.
yeah, I mean, hey, I doesn't hurt to ask for some free free vouchers if you can trust them again. I don't know. It depends on how traumatized the person was.
Another comment here says, I bit into a piece of a grill brush in a Chipotle burrito once. The manager gave me 30 cards for free burritos. Um,
Whoa. I would definitely be okay with biting, having a grill brush or something, whatever they said. If it got me 30 more burritos, like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Just yeah. But I'm too much of a fan of Chipotle to give that up. Like they would have to really mess something up for me to not go back. I'm just trying to
yeah, I'm
think now.
just
What would it take for me to decide to never go back to Chipotle again? Like,
a
I don't
knife in the
know.
food, a razor blade in your sandwich or something.
Yeah, yeah. I probably wouldn't. Well, yeah, yeah.
I didn't understand
A
that.
razor blade in my Chipotle bowl would probably cause enough internal bleeding that I would never eat anything again, Chipotle or
Um,
otherwise. It's like, that's lethal inside the
that just made
digestive
me.
system.
My parents, they used to check my Halloween candy when I was a kid, and that makes me think. They used to say that people were putting razor blades in the candy. Um, I don't see why. Um,
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there was some instance of that actually happening somewhere. I remember hearing about that back in the 90s, like, you know, razor blades in your candy apples or something, check all of your Halloween. Yeah, I remember having my candy checked.
I never actually looked into why, but that
Check with a magnet. That's a good idea. If you're worried about razor blades, get a strong magnet and just kind of wave it through your kid's candy. And if anything sticks to the magnet, then you've got a problem. Well, I guess you don't have a problem anymore. If you stick it to the magnet, then you've removed the problem by virtue of discovering it.
um, I looked on
Hmm.
Google and it says the idea of razor blades in Halloween candy is a persistent urban legend.
Yeah.
Though occasionally isolated incidents of tampering, often hoaxes or related to drugs, not random attackers, do get reported, leading police to advise caution, but research shows no verified deaths or widespread harm from strangers in trick or treating, with most real incidents linked to family members or hoaxes, not random malicious acts. While while it's wise to inspect treats, the fear often outweighs the risk, with modern concerns shifting more towards edibles or drugs. Mm.
Yeah. Poison. Yeah, there's a whole Wikipedia article on poison candy myths.
Mm.
Mostly urban legends, it says. So I wonder if that qualifier is there because there are actual cases or if it's just to kind of um, hedge their. Oh, wait, no, here. Several events in the late 20th century fostered the modern day candy tampering myth. In 1959, a California dentist named William Shine gave a candy coated laxative pills to trick or treaters. He was charged with outrage of public decency and unlawful dispensing of drugs. That's mean. In
Okay.
1964, a disgruntled Long Island, New York woman gave out packages of inedible objects to children who she believed were too old to be trick-or-treating. The packages contained items such as steel wool, dog biscuits, and ant buttons, which were clearly labeled with the word poison. Though nobody was injured, she was prosecuted and pleaded guilty to endangering children. The same year saw media reports of lye-filled bubble gum being handed out in Detroit and rat poison being given in Philadelphia. All these reports were never substantiated to be actual evidence. Actual events. Wow, lie. Another
Right.
notable milestone published in the New York Times in 1970 article claimed that those Halloween goodies that children collect this weekend on their rounds of trick-or-treating may bring them more horror than happiness, and provided specific examples of tampering. And then the Tylenol murders. So,
They got
yeah.
they got this. I found an article. It says Saturday, November 1st, 2025. So this is new. It says razor blade found in child's Halloween candy. Police urge parents to check every piece. There is a picture of a very disturbing piece of razor blade. And yeah, let me know what you think about that one. Look at this.
Oh, okay. How did they get that in there?
Unsure.
What is that?
Um,
Hmm, that's, huh.
yeah, that's disturbing. Put a put that in there. Like, who are you trying to get with this? That's messed up.
Yeah. It
Mm,
says in that Wikipedia article that sociologists had searched news reports from 1958 to 1983 for evidence of candy tampering and found fewer than 90 instances that might have qualified as actual candy tampering. And in none of those cases did he attribute uh, random attempts to harm children during the Halloween holiday. Instead, he said most cases were attempts by adults to gain financial compensation, or far more commonly by children to get attention.
mm.
Best found
Oh,
5 child deaths that were initially thought by local authorities to be caused by homicidal strangers, but none of them were sustained by investigation.
this article says it's in Kyle, Texas. It says police were alerted after a razor blade was allegedly found inside of a piece of Halloween candy. On Saturday, the Kyle Police Department took to Facebook to warn parents that razor blade had been found in child's Reese's Take 5 candy bar. According to the police, the wrapper appeared to be sealed and unopened. Hmm. Police encourage parents to check every piece of candy before allowing their child to eat it. If families in Kyle find anything suspicious or dangerous to your child's candy, you can call the Kyle Police Department at 512-268-3232. Not in the Kyle Police Department. But it says families in San Antonio can report suspicious or dangerous candies to the San Antonio Police Department as well. Um, when I look at things like this, I'm like, who are you aiming to attack? Because anybody could have ate that. Um, why? And yeah, mainly why. Um,
Well, I mean, how? Also, how could it get inside of the candy and then get the candy inside of the sealed package and then get that sealed package in with the rest of the contents of that bulk, individually wrapped candy without any of the others having, I mean, presumably there weren't a whole mess of razors and a bunch of candy like that, right? If it was only the
Right.
one, or if it was like
Yeah.
30 of them, we would have a headline of 30, right? The only one happening is, oh, yeah, there are safety recommendations from authorities to inspect all candy for punctures, rips, or unusual bulges. Discard anything that appears to have been tampered with or is not in its original wrapper, and report suspicious findings to local law enforcement immediately. I think I'd add to that maybe a magnet. If you've got a nice sized magnet, kind of wave it. If there are metal razor blades and candy inside of sealed packages, then a magnet would attract. I mean, assuming it's a steel razor, but I don't think there's many aluminum. Aluminum doesn't hold its edge as well as steel for stuff like that. So yeah, that's scary.
Right. Um, Time to start checking Halloween candy. Because I did not do this for my child as my parent did for me. Because didn't really pay attention, to be honest. I didn't think that it was actually possible. Never really looked it up. I thought it was just something my parents just said and did just to get my candy. Because honestly, they'd search the candy and have their go first. So for a long time, that's what I thought it was. I thought maybe the parents want to check the candy, take out what they like, and then give it back to
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
I
yeah.
always thought it was that. Um,
That's what my
no.
brother-in-law he calls it the dad tax. The kids
Mm.
have to come and bring, and he goes and he picks out a couple things from each of the kids' things. I mean, they all do it, play along too. It's not like they're pissed about it, but still, it makes sense to frame it as a tax. It is a very, very good analogy. So, but he's actually open and blatant about it. He says, "Hey, come on, give me your bag of candy. I'm going to look through it and I'm going to take some too, just before you can." I mean,
Yeah, I didn't get the warning. My mother didn't say that. She was just like, "Come on, you know what time it is." Well, she didn't say that either, but she was just ready. I was told that
yeah,
several Halloweens before. Let me look through that before you start. You don't want to take a bite into something. And I was told that a lot, so I thought it was um, a false. To be honest, I was told that a lot by my mother. I didn't hear a lot of that by other kids' parents telling them don't do it. I thought it was maybe just
yeah,
my mom telling me, I want to check this candy first.
that night I remember thinking that strangers were trying to lure me in. I gotta watch and stay away from strangers that I don't know, like I expected that it was so common that everybody was out to try to get you. And I mean, it's good to have that kind of um, awareness, but it was kind of like such an ingrained fear, like actual literal fear of anybody that was not explicitly approved by, you know, parents and family and stuff. And I think that fed in a lot of social anxiety down the road. Um, because a lot of that stuff with an autistic mind gets taken at literal explicit face value. So when I was told strangers, you know, strangers can be dangerous, it was like all strangers are dangerous and good to behave that way, but then I can't ever meet anybody without thinking, oh, this might be a sketchy, dangerous
Dangerous.
person, even into adulthood when I know that there's not that same sort of danger of being abducted in the same way. Um, the anxiety still kicks in. That fight or flight response is still um, has still been established in that pattern. It's interesting that, difficult to
Hmm.
break at the same time too. So that's like a whole nother 3-hour tangent that can maybe we should save that for another day.
All right. Well, we can tell everybody bye. I'll see you guys later. Tune in next time. Um,
Yes.
with
Don't
Mark in
forget
the
to like
morning.
and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. It'll help out the podcast.
A lot.
Um,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Hit the notification bell. I think that helps even more. So, yeah. Subreddit
That's it.
epilepsy_universe. And yeah.